in an earlier interview this week, asked about the Black Lives Matter movement, and you called it silly. Why did you call it silly?
Well, you know, I don't recall calling it silly, but what I called silly is political correctness going amok. That's what's silly. When, you know, I guess it was Martin O'Malley who said, you know, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter. He got in trouble for that and had to apologize. That's what I'm talking about is silly. Of course, all lives matter. And of course, we should be very concerned about what's going on, particularly in our inner cities. It's a crime. You know, for a young black man, the most likely cause of death is homicide. That is a huge problem that we need to address in a very serious way.
Well, and that is what the Black Lives Matter movement is doing and why they criticize.
Hang on, let me pause here. What Chuck Todd is getting ready to do is generally what people like to call white splaining, when you have a white American try to explain black issues to a black person. However, because this issue is lost on Ben Carson, Chuck Todd is actually, watch what he does here. And I'm not even a fan of Chuck Todd, but he's trying to help Ben Carson out because Ben Carson is so lost on this issue.
Politicians for saying all lives matter, because their point is until that there is an equality here, that particularly you brought up African-American men and that overall stat, but think about the issue of police custody,
right? That
an African-American is more likely to die in police custody than any other race or ethnicity.
Yeah, but again, I think we need to look at the whole picture. One of the things that I always like to point out to people is, how about we just remove the police for 24 hours? Can you imagine the chaos that would ensue? And the vast majority of police are very good people. Are there bad apples? Of course. But if you hire a plumber and he does a bad job, do you say all plumbers are bad? Let's go out and kill them? I don't think we do that. We need to be a little more mature. But certainly in cases where police are doing things that are inappropriate, I think we ought to investigate those promptly, and justice should be swift.
All right. Let's put it into Ben Carson video footage. Okay, so I guess I should work my way backwards on this one. Why is it when you're giving a very specific question that candidates always like to go to absurd extremes? Not even a logical extreme, but an absurd extreme. Nothing about Black Lives Matters, nothing about what Chuck Todd tried to explain to him. No one has ever said, let's remove the police for 24 hours. I mean, there's some police state warriors who generally say that, but they tend to be on the fringes of either ideology, left or right. But no one rational has ever said, let's remove the police for 24 hours. No one has ever said, because there are bad apples, too many bad apples, that we should go out and kill anyone. And so he kind of he deflects this entire question because he deflects it using absurdities. But he does so because he cannot answer this question without upsetting his base. And right now during the primaries, every single one of these candidates are so beholden to their extremely radical, conservative, right-wing nut job base that they can never admit that there is police violence run amok in the country in general, but specifically so bad that the black community had to come together with Black Lives Matter. He cannot admit that. If he says anything of that sort, then his hope, which is a fleeting hope, you know, of becoming the nominee, is out the window. But, you know, he's not going to get the nomination in the first place. But I digress. So backing up into what he said now, I want you to listen to the verbiage. Republicans are very good on messaging. They're very good on addressing black violence without ever mentioning police violence on black people. And you'll hear this in another clip, in a clip I have of Jeb Bush. But with Ben Carson, he said, of course it's a problem. Of course Black Lives Matter. And it's a crime. It's a shame what's happening in our inner cities. Keyword right there. Let me see if I have my ding ready. Is my ding ready? Is my ding? Do I have a ding anywhere? The computer's too slow this morning. There it is. Of course, that's the key word. Inner cities, right? That's code word for the Republican Party to say the ghetto, right? Of course, he's going to say, let's focus on homicide, which is the number one leading cause of death amongst African-American men is homicide, right? Code language for Republican Party, meaning black on black crime, right? So it's a standard deflection. Let's never talk about the issue of police violence against African-American men and women. Let's always focus on black crime. And so he tries to do a little rhetorical jujitsu, right? He tries to bob and weave around the question, but, and you know, unfortunately it works on certain people, but his code language doesn't work on anyone with enough mental capacity, enough faculties to see through the bull. The bull is he does not and cannot and will never concede to the fact that there is police violence against African Americans that is ridiculous and out of control. Is it a statistically significant higher number than what white Americans face? I don't know. I haven't seen the research. I haven't done the research. Someone can look that up. But once is too many. Twice is too many. And right now we have a list of names that is so long that if you cannot admit that there is something happening, something that should not be happening going on, then you might be a Republican.